Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be covering some Scientology. So welcome back to another Scientology from a Scientologist perspective video. I have my computer in front of me, I have my notes in my lap, and let's get started. So today we're going to be covering a Mike Rinder blog, and this one is called Scientology Fair Game. He posted this on July 30th, 2019. It's written by Mike Rinder, of course. And this one, he is looking at the Stand webpage. This is a Scientology pro group that kind of attacks everybody that's against Scientology and Scientology's practices. So this should be interesting. So he looks at the Stand League's propaganda page, and they're talking about fair game. So we're going to get into what fair game means. We're going to look at what Hubbard wrote about fair game, what the Stand League puts out about fair game, and all of that. So let's get started. So Mike Rinder goes into fair game. He starts out with what Hubbard put out about fair game, and he goes hard. He brings up all of the policy letters on fair game, when it started, what was wrote about it. It's very interesting stuff. He has the actual policy letters scanned. You're reading what Hubbard actually wrote. So we're going to start off in 1967. This letter was posted October the 18th, 1967. This is from Hubbard's communication office, St. Hill Manor, East Grinstead, Sussex. And it goes to right at enemy. And it says, plain language, fair game may be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist without any discipline of the Scientologist, may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed. That is what they are talking about when they're talking about fair game. If a person is deemed an enemy by Scientology, they can be deprived of property, injured by any means, by any Scientologist. They may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed. Plain language. Okay? But that was in 1967. Fair game goes back even further. There's a 1965 policy on fair game. It says a suppressive person or group becomes fair game. By fair game is meant without rights for self, possessions, or position, and no Scientologist may be brought before a committee of evidence or punished for any action taken against a suppressive person or group during the period that person or group is fair game. So that was 1965. Plain language. They're saying it doesn't matter what the Scientologist does to someone that's declared a suppressive person or a group that is declared suppressive. That Scientologist has no repercussions whatsoever. If that Scientologist does anything, it's okay. It even goes on further to say, no committee of evidence may be called to punish any Scientologist or person for any offense of any kind against a suppressive person, except to establish in cases of real dispute whether or not the person was suppressing either Scientology or the Scientologist, the homes, property, places, and abodes of persons who have been active in attempting to suppress Scientology or Scientologists are all beyond any protection of Scientology ethics, unless absolved by later ethics or any amnesty. That's in 1965. They're saying your home, your private property is not beyond their attack. They can come for you at any point, at any time. It does not matter. There's no way you can get out of it. He goes on to give specific orders to harass individuals who are declared suppressive in an executive letter. Still in 1965. It's like bullet point number 2. Harass these people in any possible way. Any possible way. It's unmistakable what he's meaning by this. He means destroy a person's life. He means do whatever you want. Take any action you want. Go any means you want. Do whatever to make this person's life unbearable. But there became a problem. But not quite yet. So in 1968, he issued an executive letter in which this went out to Sea Org members, and he posted this in their magazine, The Auditor. Point number 4 says they are fair game. And point number 7, he says any Sea Org member contacting any of them is to use auditing process R2-45. So you're probably wondering, what the hell is R2-45? Well, in Hubbard's book, Creation of Human Ability, he lays out what R2-45 means. And that is an enormously effective process for externalization, but its use is frowned upon by this society at this time. So, what does that mean? Well, Mike Rinder takes this even further. So if you want to listen to this, it's 16 seconds long, but you can go to his blog. I listened to this 3 times before I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. This man actually said this. Then I thought about it and I was like, no, this is Hubbard. He's actually this crazy. Mike Rinder posted a piece of one of Hubbard's lectures. Now this is in Hubbard's own words. This is a piece of his lecture. It's 16 seconds long. Hubbard actually talks about taking a gun and exteriorizing a thetan from the body, meaning take a gun and shoot somebody. Doesn't say you could, might, or may. He means shoot somebody. So let's go back up to what that says. Any Sea Org member contacting any of them to use auditing process R2-45. So in fair gaming somebody, now let's go back up here. May be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist without any discipline from Scientologists, may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed. Back down here. Any Sea Org member contacting any of them is to use auditing process R2-45. He's literally telling Sea Org members, if you come in contact with one of these people, shoot them. Exteriorize their thetan. Well, these things got out to the public. Media started covering what L. Ron Hubbard was telling Scientologists to do. So after the media covered this, on October the 21st, 1968, another policy letter went out. cancellation of fair game. But he said it causes bad public relations. This policy letter does not cancel any policy on the treatment of handling SPs. So what he's pretty much saying is, don't use fair game as the title of what you're doing. Like, the action still stands, just don't call it fair game. Like, that was his way of being able to tell the media, oh, well, we don't do that anymore, but we still do that. Like, we're not calling it fair game anymore. Well, we're still fair gaming people. Render likens this to as if Hubbard came out with a sucker punch policy in which you sneak up and you hit an enemy in the face and they would not be punished for doing so, and then canceled the use of the term sucker punch, but it didn't change how they treated their enemies. It's the same concept. So we're going to move on into what the Stand League talks about. So this can all be found on their FAQ page on their website. So it says the truth about Scientology. And I don't know where they think they can get the truth of Scientology. Nobody knows the truth of Scientology. Nobody. But they said fair game is a term that was intentionally misinterpreted by individuals opposed to Scientology in order to fuel prejudice through the false and derogatory rumor. No, there are actually policy letters. We have just seen the policy letters, and if you don't want to take my word for it, like I said, go to Mike Render's blog. You can look at the policy letters yourself. Then it goes on to say, everything claimed about fair game is false. No policy exists in Scientology. But then very next sentence after it says no policy like that exists in Scientology, it says it only existed for 3 years and then was canceled in 1968 because it was intentionally being misinterpreted and misused by opponents of Scientology. But you just said it didn't exist. So even the Stand League is doing the same thing that all of the apologists for Scientology do. They're contradicting themselves, literally within 2 sentences of themselves. This was the funniest part. The use of the term fair game in Scientology simply meant that apostates, give me a break, apostates who choose to leave or were expelled from Scientology could no longer seek protection or refuge within the Church of Scientology ethics and justice system to resolve disputes, as they were no longer entitled to the rights and privileges of a Scientologist. It said instead these individuals would have to make their own way unaided by the highly developed and equitable ecclesiastical ethics and justice system of the church, with the legal procedures of secular society as their only recourse. People that are in the church that have been robbed of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars do not have any recourse in Scientology. Nobody has any recourse inside Scientology. Give me a break. Then they do this. They liken it to being excommunicated from other religions. How do you equate that to being excommunicated? When you're excommunicated from, say, like Catholicism or from Jehovah's Witnesses, they do not try to harass you at home. They do not send private investigators to go through your garbage. They do not follow you. They do not harass your family members. They do not cut you off from your life. Well, I say that Jehovah's Witnesses do that shunning things. So if your family is in Jehovah's Witnesses, they do shun you, but Catholics don't do that. So you can't like it to being excommunicated. Now, you can liken it to being in an abusive relationship. I'll give you that one. But you can't liken it to being excommunicated from another religion. Then they go on to Scientology's ethics and justice system. And this is just a laugh fest waiting to happen. They go on to say that Scientologists would never tolerate a fair game policy condoning illegal and unethical actions. Where? They use their tax-free status to hire private investigators. They use their tax-free status to follow people. They use their tax-free status to abuse people in the legal system. But they wouldn't condone a policy of illegal and unethical actions. Isn't that what they do every single day? Then they say that the Scientology scripture, one, point me out of Scientology scripture somewhere, but two, has them to adhere to a life of honesty, impeccable ethics, and integrity. Where? Again, you have private investigators on your payroll. You use tracking devices on people's cars. You have your whole squirrel buster team. You harass people at their homes. You get people fired from their jobs. Y'all have cut down trees on private property so that you can tape people at their places of business. You've busted into private meetings of business owners. So where are these honest, impeccable ethics and integrity at? Point that out to me. And then it says, Scientology beliefs firmly hold that the commission of crimes, dishonesties, or harmful acts against others represents the road to harm, personal misery, and destruction of positive interpersonal relationships. The destruction of positive interpersonal relationships is right there in your policy. When somebody leaves, you make them disconnect from their families. That is destruction of positive interpersonal relationships. Then they go on to quote L. Ron Hubbard in his introduction to Scientology ethics, talking about a man who lies, the woman who cheats on her husband, and the teenager who takes drugs, the politician who is involved in dishonest dealings. All are cutting their own throats. They are harming their own survival by having their dynamics out of communication and not applying ethics to their lives. But L. Ron Hubbard lied about his military career. The Church of Scientology has even backed those lies. That's your foundation for your whole religion right there, is based off of lies. It may come as a surprise to you, but a clean heart and clean hands are the only way to achieve happiness and survival. But L. Ron Hubbard didn't have clean hands. The Church of Scientology doesn't have clean hands, but you're preaching having clean hands? Where? Anyway. Goes on talking some more about man is basically good. Okay, I'll give you that one. Man may be basically good, but the church puts in a lot a lot of bad things onto man. They keep going on and on and on. Then they go on to the true meaning of fair game. Ron Hubbard, described the concept of fair game in the original writing on the subject in 1965. If a group member rejects the group, he rejects everything about the group and no further question about that. Certainly there is no question in his mind, his or her mind, of salvaging or helping the group. Why should the group then seek to extend the protection over him unless it wants to defy its first right, that of survival? Okay, but that is not what you said. That is not what you said. So in Scientology, anyone who rejects Scientology also rejects knowingly or unknowingly the protection and the benefits of Scientology and the companionship of Scientologists. So that's something that L. Ron Hubbard may have said. But let's go back up here to his policy letter for just a second. In 1965, L. Ron Hubbard wrote, "By fair game is meant without rights for self, possessions, or position, and no Scientologist may be brought before a committee of evidence or punished for any action taken against a suppressive person or group during the period that person or group is fair game." Those two things are not the same. You're trying to make it look as if it is a harmless thing. You're trying to make it look as if it's a self-preservation thing, but it's not. Then they say in 1968 he canceled fair game. Notwithstanding the true religious meanings of the term fair game in Scientology, apostates and their attorneys distorted the meaning and intent of the term in a grossly negative fashion and falsely claim that it authorized acts of retribution against former members attempting to attack Scientology religion and its adherents. Because L. Ron Hubbard preached or taught or spoke, or however they want to say it, to use a gun to exteriorize someone's thetan. It's in his lecture. These false allegations were invented strictly to advance monetary claims in legal actions. Because in his policy letters, it clearly states that no one's home is a safe haven. Therefore, in 1968, 3 years after the first term fair game was used, L. Ron Hubbard canceled the use of the term and set a record straight to cease having the true meaning of his writings purposely misinterpreted. Yes, he canceled the term fair use, but not the action. That's two separate things. Two separate things. Two separate things. So, there and again, you have more Scientology propaganda going on, where they say one thing, but the meaning is something else. The Stand League is just going out there trying to make Scientology look all pretty and appealing for everybody, but when you actually look behind the curtain, it's just a very ugly, unappealing thing. Just like the Wizard of Oz, you have the great and powerful Oz before you, but you pull back the curtain and it's a very short, balding magician that wasn't good at being a magician. So that's going to do it for today. Like this video. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, ring the bell so that you are notified of every time I upload. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about fair game? What do you think the Scientology has done with this practice, and do you think that they are still practicing it today? In the description box down below is my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and email. Go ahead and send me any suggestions for further videos, and if your suggestion's videotaped, I will shout you out in that video. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.